The Hurom H70 versus the Nama J2. While everyone's focused on cleanup and pulp, they might be making a massive mistake by ignoring this one trade-off. In the next 8 minutes, I'm about to show you the key difference between these juicers, the one trade-off that you probably never even considered, and exclusive test data so you can pick the perfect machine without wasting $600. But first, I've found the more simple your juicer is, the more use you're gonna get out of it. To find out which machine is more simple, we can just compare the parts. Both juicers have hoppers, but the H70 is 55 ounces while the Nama J2 is 70 ounces. So if you were to fill each to the max line, the Nama J2 would make about 3 cups at once and the H70 would only make about 2. This means the Nama J2 is gonna save slightly more time due to its larger capacity. Each hopper has a set of blades at the bottom which do the prep work for you, so you don't have to chop everything up into pieces, wait by the machine and load them one by one. Instead, you can just put everything in, turn it on, and then by the time you're done checking your email or getting your kids ready for school, you've got fresh juice. Now, the major difference in these two machines is how they extract juice. The Nama J2 comes with a normal auger that sits inside a juicing screen. The juice gets pushed through these tiny holes. Now, the H70 has something called an easy clean auger, which you can pull apart into 2 pieces. This presses the fruits and vegetables and strains the juice through the slits. If you want to make sorbets with the Nama, you have to buy a separate strainer, but with the H70, the auger is built in right out of the box, no accessories needed. If you're someone who doesn't like pulp, this design is going to give you more pulp in your glass than the Nama J2, and there's also a hidden trade-off that we're about to get to. Now, the J2 has a learning curve, but both can be put together pretty quick. Here's a side-by-side comparison. For the Nama J2, it took 18 seconds, and for the Hurom H70, it took 12 seconds. Both come with 15-year warranties on the parts and the motors, so you get peace of mind knowing if something breaks, they'll replace it. I think if you want a simple machine that's going to make it easy as possible to stick to juicing, the H70 is pretty hard to beat. Both of these are simple, but the point goes to the H70 for faster assembly and fewer parts. But simplicity is not the only thing that matters here. What if you've got bad joints, limited counter space, or tons of clutter in your kitchen? The size and weight of each machine is going to make a difference. The Hurom H70 weighs about 14.8 pounds, while the J2 weighs about 12.1 pounds. That's about 3 pounds less, so the J2 is going to be easier to move around. Both juicers have no problem fitting under kitchen cabinets. Sometimes I even leave mine on the counter. Other times I like to stow them away. I wouldn't call either of these portable, but the J2 gets the point for having less weight. And if you're planning on getting either of these machines, I'll keep links in the description below with the best discount on the internet. Using these links doesn't cost you a thing and helps to support the channel, so I greatly appreciate that. Now, whether you're an early bird or a night owl, the last thing you want is your juicer waking everybody up, because if it does, then you got to deal with cranky partners, crying babies, and pissed off roommates, and who wants that? So I measured the noise levels on both of these machines, and the H70 averages around 68 decibels, while the Nama J2 averages around 59 decibels. To put things in perspective, your average blender is over 100 decibels loud. I don't think either of these is going to wake anybody up, but the J2 is definitely the quieter machine. Now, pay attention to this next part because you could be lighting your grocery money on fire. No juicer is going to be perfect, but the yields are important, especially if you don't want to throw money away on half juice fruits and vegetables. So I wanted to see how much juice each of these makes with the same ingredients. I tested equal amounts of celery, oranges, leafy greens, and to start, I measured 6 ounces of celery for each juicer. I loaded both of them up and let them rip. We've got about 128 milliliters of celery juice for the J2. For the H70, we were able to squeeze about 107 milliliters of celery juice. Here's the squeeze test on the J2, and here's the squeeze test on the Hurom H70. For ginger, I measured 1.3 ounces for each juicer. I dumped the chunks into the top of the machines and turned them on and let them work their magic. So we've got 26 milliliters of ginger juice for the J2, and for the Hurom H70, we were able to squeeze out 27 milliliters of ginger juice. Here's the squeeze test on the J2, and here's the squeeze test on the H70. Next up, oranges. I measured out 8.5 oranges for each machine. I loaded each juicer up and let them work. That turned out to be 166 milliliters of juice for the J2, and for the Hurom H70, we were able to squeeze out 168 milliliters of OJ. Here's the squeeze test on the J2, and here's the squeeze test on the H70. Both were as dry as it gets. For leafy greens, I used 2 ounces. That's about half a bag dumped into each machine, so we've got about 36 milliliters of juice with the J2, and for the Hurom H70, we've got about 20 milliliters of juice. Here's the squeeze test on the J2, and I couldn't do the squeeze test on the H70 because most of the pulp was wrapped around the auger. This is the final scorecard for both machines. The J2 extracts more juice than the H70 with celery and leafy greens, while the oranges and ginger were about the same for each. The H70 also makes a more pulpier drink like we mentioned before. Now, if you're anything like me, cleaning is your least favorite activity in the world, and what I like about the H70 is that you can afford to be a little bit more lazy than you can with the J2. All you have to do is rinse the parts and you're pretty much done. It only takes 1 minute and 6 seconds to fully clean without any scrubbing. The Nama J2 takes about 2 minutes and 16 seconds, and there are some tricky parts that you're gonna have to pay attention to. The auger has this gap underneath where pulp tends to get stuck, and there's also this hole in the strainer where pulp can get lodged. And of course, because it's a stainless steel screen, you have to scrub it pretty thoroughly. The Nama J2 isn't hard to clean, but the H70 makes it look effortless. So H70 gets the W here. But here's the one trade-off that people rarely talk about before it's too late. The H70 has a pretty limited ecosystem of accessories. Apart from the cutting board, knife, and juice bottles, there's no upgrades. The J2, on the other hand, has 9 premium accessories, and they're always adding more to this list. One of my favorites is the large hopper. It extends the capacity to 105 ounces, so you can make 5 to 6 cups of juice at once. Then they've got this large pitcher set with a removable strainer, so if you like batch juicing, you're gonna be able to make more juice in less time. And if you like having OJ with your breakfast, there's a citrus attachment too, whereas the H70 doesn't have any of these. When I'm having my parents over for breakfast, I make 5 to 6 cups of OJ in a fraction of the time because you don't have to peel rinds or get your hands dirty. You just slice the orange in half, push them on top, and then you're ready to rock. Cleaning the citrus attachment is faster too because you just rinse it and you don't have to worry about taking apart the entire machine. The juice bottles are hands down the best I've used from Nama, and I bought many of them from Amazon. They have these silicone seals that keep out the air from your juice so that it stays fresher longer, and they come with a sleeve that protects it against drops and cracks and dents. I could just go on and on about these accessories. They're a little pricey, but man, are they the best that I've used. And you know what? Sometimes I use the H70 with some of the Nama accessories. The big pitcher and juice bottles can work with any juicer, but the hopper and the citrus attachment will only work with the J2, of course. The big pitcher plus the H70 is actually a pretty sweet combo if you're somebody who wants faster cleanup but can't stand pulp. So the J2 technically scored more points than the H70, but I've used both for over a year, and these are some of the 2 best machines money can buy. I find myself switching back and forth between these a lot, and whichever one you decide to pick, I'll update the links in the description with the best possible discount to save you as much money. If you're not sure which one you should go with, I'll make it super easy for you. Get the J2 if you want less pulp and the option to upgrade with premium add-ons like a bigger hopper or a citrus juicer. Get the H70 if you want faster cleanup, simpler parts, and you don't mind a bit more pulp in your glass.